This is the introduction to computers. It says for business entrepreneurs, but in reality, it could be anyone that is wanting to understand just the basics of computers. This course is not designed for someone that has already been very familiar with computers, knows how to use them. I put this together for those they have a computer but they don't really understand how it works or how to do certain things. This is just a very basic course. Now you can comment about the course at blog.extrahelp.us. My website is www.extrahelp.us. My email is steve.davis@extrahelp.us. Now there's no charge whatsoever. I'm not selling anything. So what I'm putting out there is to help folks understand a little bit about myself. I am now retired. I work a little bit about myself. I'm now retired. I worked for many very large companies throughout my career. I worked for Hewlett Packard, HP, for 18 years. I worked for companies like Bank of America, finally as one of their many vice presidents, and in networking. I've worked for Cisco Systems as well, routers, switches, firewalls, load balancers, servers, Linux. I mean, there's a whole array of things that I have spent during my career. So I have a good understanding of computers and technology and how things work. I also have a very firm understanding of cybersecurity. I was a senior security architect in several roles that I held. So moving further, the objective of this course is to understand the basic computer hardware and software. Learn some of the common computer terminology, recognize the role of computers in your business, and to gain practical knowledge for informed computing decisions. Now that's kind of a mouthful right there, but the real objective is to help folks that don't have a good understanding of computers, just starting out, the very basics of it. As I said moments ago, if you have been working with computers for years, you know how to do things like copy and paste. You know what the internals. You've built computers yourself. This course is not for you. But like I said, if you're a novice, just getting started, or maybe you've had a computer for a long time but you don't really understand it, stick around because I have a lot of things I can teach you. So, at the very basic level, what is a computer? Well, it's some kind of electronic device that processes data. It has things like CPU, or central processing unit. It has a monitor, it has a keyboard, it has a mouse, it has storage devices, or maybe it doesn't have some of these things. Maybe it doesn't have a keyboard and mouse. Maybe it's a smartphone or a tablet. So if we look at that, some of the pros and cons: desktops, they're a lot more powerful, they're expandable, but they're not portable. You can't pick them up and take them with you, when you are out and about. Laptops, they're portable, they're very convenient to use, but they're not quite as powerful, some of them, as a desktop. Now, some of the more expensive laptops, like for gaming laptops, maybe they are as powerful as a desktop. Tablets are highly portable, but a lot of them have limited functionality. It's just not the same as using a laptop or a desktop. Cell phones, extremely portable. Pretty much everyone has a cell phone. And people don't think of cell phones as computers, but they really are. But the problem is they have a small screen and a keyboard. If you're like me, as you're typing on those small little keyboards, you often make mistakes. Software. Different operating systems. Probably most people are familiar with Windows, Mac OS, if you have a Macintosh or rather an Apple computer. Some of you may not be familiar with Linux. Linux is a operating system out there that's free, and I've used Linux in the workplace. Linux works great for certain things. It works really well. So what's the whole purpose of an operating system? It manages the hardware and software resources. Without the operating system to manage the hardware, your computer is worthless. It's nothing but a paperweight because it can't do anything without an operating system. Application software. These are things like word processors, spreadsheets, accounting software, things like that. The key thing to remember when it comes to application software is choosing the right software for your business. And I can't tell you what that is without understanding what your business is. Some of the key computer terminology we use will be things like RAM, or random access memory. This is the actual physical memory. How much memory does your computer have? A hard drive. People often confuse memory with hard drive. They may say, well, I have a terabyte of memory, but what they really mean is they have a terabyte of hard drive. And I even catch myself sometimes saying memory when I really mean hard drive. Things like browsers, those are Chrome, Edge, Firefox, those type of things that you use to look at the internet with, look at web pages. We talk about, a file. What you type in and save on your computer is a file. You place files within a folder. Maybe these folders are going to be on your desktop. Desktop is just another type of folder. So why is this important? Understanding the terminology helps you use your computer more effectively. So talking about hardware for a moment. These are things like the case. Most people look at the box and they say that's the computer. Well, that's the case. The computer and everything else is inside that case. The monitor, that's the screen that you're going to be looking at. The keyboard, the mouse, camera, speakers and headset. These are all the main components in hardware. But there's other components like the motherboard. That's located inside that case. The CPU, or the central processing unit, that's the brain of the computer. Without a CPU, nothing is going to work. Without a CPU fan and cooler, your CPU is going to overheat and you're going to have problems right away. Things like power supplies. Without power supply to run everything, nothing's going to work. We'll talk about RAM, or that random access memory, what people commonly know as how much memory does a computer have. We'll talk about the different types of drives, the old drives and the new drives, video cards, network cards like network interface cards, or a Wi-Fi, that's the wireless card in your computer. The basic computer requirements, if you're talking about a desktop, you're going to need a monitor, a keyboard and a mouse. If you have a laptop, all of that is, of course, built in. But if you have a laptop and it has a smaller screen and you find yourself not having enough real estate to really see everything that you have open, you can add an external monitor and plug that into your desktop, and now you've got two monitors. Looking inside your computer, if we were to open this computer here, you would see a motherboard that is sitting inside. Inside that motherboard, it has these slots here that things like video cards and things like that plug into these slots. You have these other slots that are longer, they're different than these, and that's where a RAM chip, random access memory, will plug in. You'll have things like a fan to keep the inside of this computer box from overheating. Things like hard drives. You may have an older type hard drive that would sit in this area here that is used for your operating system. It's also used to store data, files, things of that nature. So looking at the motherboard, which some people call the system board or the main board, you have these slots that you would plug various cards into as you need them. One might be a video card, or your motherboard may have a video connection already connected to the motherboard. It might be a built-in video connection. And again, you have this these slots here for your memory to go, and you have a connection for a power supply to plug in. So I realize that this may be a lot of information for you to digest. Don't worry about trying to memorize everything right away. Some of the information may not even be important to you to really know, but it would be helpful if you have some understanding of it. If you stay to the very end of this this session, I will present you with a link where you can connect with me on my blog, and I will put a download link there that you can download not only this presentation but a PDF file that has everything. So don't worry about like taking notes or anything like that, because just pay attention to what I'm saying, and I'll provide you with the notes at the end of the session. So the central processing unit, what is that? That's the brain of the computer. And all of them are not created equal. There are different generations. For example, the one you're looking here is a 4th generation Intel Core i7. Well, right now they're up, I think, to a 13th generation of a processor. But common processors come in things like i3, i5, i7, i9. And these are how many cores each one of these has. Now, what is a core? Just think of a core is like how many computers can you run at the same time inside the box? I mean, at a very simple way of thinking about it. i3 is kind of an entry level nowadays. It would work. It depends on what your needs are. If you are just browsing the web or checking your email, maybe an i3 is all you need. But if I were buying a new computer, I wouldn't buy an i3. I would buy at the minimum an i5. Now I just bought a new computer, the one that I'm recording this on, and that's an i7. I built a computer, a desktop computer recently, and I put an i9 in it. Why did I choose an i9? It's a lot more expensive than these other ones are, but it has like 20 cores in it, so I can do all kinds of things with it. You know, play games, or I'm not talking about simple games. I'm talking about like a flight simulator, like flying an airplane type game. Extremely powerful. So just keep in mind what your business requirements are. I mean, if I were recommending someone that maybe they just do spreadsheets, word processing, they could probably get away with an i5 with no problem, with a little bit of extra RAM. But if money is not a major issue, I'd say get at least an i7. And a laptop, you're probably not even going to find an i9. i7 is about the most that you're going to find. There may be some i9s out there that are designed for gaming, but that's probably not what you need for your business. Let's take a deeper discussion and talk about RAM, random access memory. As I said earlier, don't confuse memory with storage space. That's a common mistake. How is memory used? Just think of it, instructions inside your computer. If you had a policeman standing at an intersection and he's directing traffic, and traffic is not that heavy, and people come up and start talking to him, he can multitask. He can direct traffic and talk to people as long as things don't get too hectic, too busy. But imagine if 100 people came up and started talking to him while he's trying to direct traffic at a very busy intersection. Pretty soon there's going to be a pileup because he's going to start making mistakes. He can't keep up with things. Your memory in your computer is kind of the same way. If you have a very limited amount of memory, you're going to start running into problems. You even get error messages that say, not enough memory to run this application, for example. Storage. Typically you think of it as a hard drive, or HDD, a hard disk drive. It could also be a USB drive, which is like what some people call a thumb drive. That's a universal serial bus drive. It could be an SSD, a solid state drive. The SSD drives are newer than the older HDD, or the older hard drives that you might see that look like this here. So in the bottom right corner of your screen, I'm pointing to a hard disk drive here. This is the older, has platters in it, it has a lot of moving parts. When they talk about hard drive crashing, it used to be something many years ago that people would say, my hard drive crashed. Well, it's got so many moving parts in there, spinning at a high rate of speed. If something fails, it's going to cause a problem. The SSD drives came along, and they have a lot fewer moving parts, and they are newer and better than the old hard disk drives like this. And this type might be like a parallel advanced technology, a PATA, or more commonly a serial advanced technology attachment, or a SATA. Or in a lot of servers, they have the small computer system interface, the SCSI, SCSI. These are laid out kind of in terms of whether it's an older going from older technology to the newer technology. If you buy a laptop today, I can almost guarantee you it has a NVMe NVE drive in it, which is just a little, a small, it looks almost like a memory chip. So these are very common, the NVMe drives. At the end of this presentation, I will demonstrate how to replace memory in a laptop computer. I'll also demonstrate how to swap out a NVE drive, a smaller one for one that can hold more storage. So stick around to the end of the session. There's a lot more to come. So what you're looking at here is a pair of random access memory or RAM modules. You notice that there is a key in the middle. So the other thing to notice is it says this is DDR4 memory, which is fairly common today. There is a newer memory out there called DDR5, but the type of memory that you're going to be using in your computer, or the type that is in your computer, is critical to what your motherboard or your system board is going to support. A lot of computers will not even support the DDR5, so you are left using DDR4 memory modules. The hard drives, this is looking at that older hard drive that has these disk platters in it. It has these readers that move back and forth between, these platters. This is one showing on top, but there's also in the middle, and this one here, one is reading underneath. Like I said, there's a lot of moving parts in these older computers, and that's why those hard drives don't last that long. If you have one of these older computers that have, a hard disk drive, my recommendation is make sure that you're backing up your data, because you could lose it at any time if this hard drive were to fail and you don't have a backup. The SATA, the NVE type or SSD, solid state drives, these are two of those. And they're very easy to insert, as you'll see later. I will demonstrate a smaller footprint of one of these, but the concept is still the same. So at this point, I would pause and ask if there's any questions. So I will give you a chance, if you're watching this video recorded, then please go to blog.extrahelp, go to extrahelpus.blogspot.com and post your question, and I will do my best to answer you there. I can't promise you that I will interact personally with every single one of you. It depends on how busy. I don't mind doing it, but it just depends on how many people are asking me for help on a particular day, and whether or not I have the time to do that. But if you post your question on my blog, I absolutely will give it my utmost effort to answer your question. Again, that's extrahelpus.blogspot.com. So when you turn a computer on, what happens? So as soon as you press that on button, it's going to go through what's called a POST, a power on self-test. There is programming in your computer that is going to test everything to make sure everything, the hardware, is working at the most basic level. There is a a database where some of this information is stored at. It's called CMOS, a complementary metal oxide semiconductor. It's a small amount of memory that's on the computer motherboard. It's not something you add, it's built into the motherboard. And it stores the BIOS, or the basic input-output system. Without the BIOS, the computer can't even load the operating system. So the BIOS can be upgraded, but you have to be a little bit careful on how you upgrade the BIOS. And perhaps I'll create another video later that just talks about the BIOS for folks like you. And then once the BIOS loads, the post happens, the power on self-test, the BIOS settings load, then it will load the operating system. That's things like Windows or Apple OS, things like that. So what about software? The software is what interacts with the hardware. So even if you have an operating system, without the appropriate software, you can't do a whole lot. The operating system, things like Windows, Mac, Linux, maybe some other type of operating system, that is just coming out, or maybe an older type that is not very common. Some of the useful commands for Windows, we'll talk about resizing windows, moving, finding files, how to take a screenshot, how to do very basic things like copy and paste. I've seen folks I was trying to help where they will type everything all over again. Well, you don't need to do that. You just copy it and paste it someplace else. How to find lost files. A task manager. What's a task manager? It's all the running processes on your computer. You get to it by finding the control key on your keyboard, the shift key, and also the escape key. How to remove software. Things like multiple monitors. You're not limited just to having the one monitor on your laptop. You can have another monitor. How to back up your files. That's extremely important. In fact, I back up. I have a primary backup. I have a secondary backup, which is kind of like a backup to a backup. And I have a third backup, which in some cases, depending on how important the data is, maybe even a printed hard copy of something if I really don't want to lose it. Talk about browsers, talk about viruses and firewalls, things of that nature. So what's the role of computers in a small business? Efficiency and productivity. That's really all you want your computer to do, is help you be more efficient and help you be more productive. There's tons of online presence out there, like websites, social media, e-commerce, online marketing, and sales enablement. In fact, videos like this, there's a ton of them available out there. So somebody might say, well, Steve, why are you doing another video? Well, there are a ton of videos out there, but a lot of them are made by people with very heavy accent. I have no issues with people from other countries. I think they're absolutely great, and they work hard to put their videos out there. But for some folks, they just have trouble understanding the accent. So my video is an effort, number one, to make it very, very basic for people that are just starting, or people that have maybe had a computer for a while, but they don't really know how to use it. The other thing is, a lot of times people put music on their videos, and you have a really difficult time understanding what they're saying because the music is playing in the background. Um, Personally, I don't understand why they do that because it's very distracting. Or there may be just background noise. You hear people talking, you hear dogs barking, roosters crowing, all kinds of things. My video is designed to try to avoid things like that. So, computer security, cyber security basic, the need to protect sensitive data. I can tell you right now, having been a cyber security architect, the best advice and the most basic advice that I would give you is slow down. If you see something on your screen, don't just, people click on things out of habit. That's the biggest mistake you can make. And hackers and cyber threat actors, as they call it in the profession, they know that and they take advantage of it. They put something on the screen hoping that you're not even going to look at it. You're just going to click on it, and next thing you know, you've triggered some kind of keylogger that's logging every keystroke you make on your computer into a database out on the internet. And they are able to capture things like your bank passwords when you log into your bank account, things of that nature. Slow down. Think before you click. Read the screen. Read what it actually says. If something comes up and you absolutely are not familiar with it, slow down and read what's on the screen. Don't install software on your computer and I'm saying this for the most part, the free software. Sometimes free is not really free. They make it free so that you're going to install these cute little games on your computer. And I'm not talking about software that comes from reputable sources like Microsoft or something like that. I'm talking about, these free games or free programs that you can download from the internet. They may be free, but there may be a bigger cost to it than what you anticipate. Things like phishing. That's this PHI, phishing, where they will display a screen in front of you that looks like your bank login, and it has a login and password. You type that in, it pops up a error message saying incorrect password. In the background, it's stored what you just typed in a database out on the internet, and then once you type it in again, it sends you to the real website. That's called a man-in-the-middle type phishing attack. The best practice you can use is strong passwords. Everybody wants it to be simple, but there's a price you pay for simplicity. There's a price you pay for convenience as well. So use strong passwords. Use something that is at least 8 to 12 characters long. And I know that's a lot to remember, but you can use a password keeper so you don't have to remember all these passwords. I use one myself. I have so many passwords it's impossible for me to remember them all. So I use a password keeper, something like 1Password, that stores all my usernames and passwords in it. I only have to remember one. But if I forget that 1Password, I've lost access to all my passwords, because if you lose access, nobody can help you to get it back. Even the manufacturer of, say, 1Password cannot help you log in if you don't know what your password is. So just keep that in mind. Software updates are there for a reason. Don't don't ignore software updates. There's new vulnerabilities that come out all the time, and I mean every single day. And the software updates is to patch those vulnerabilities, patch those holes in the operating system. And the other thing is make sure that you have a good, solid data backup plan. You're backing up the data, whether that's on a USB drive or backing it up somewhere out on the cloud. But the idea is you want to have multiple backups. But once your computer gets infected with something, it's too late to back up then, because then all you're doing is backing up infected data. So you need to start earlier and have a history of archived of data backups. Choosing the right computer. I get people that ask me all the time, what kind of computer should I get? And my question to that, or my answer to that question, usually is it depends. It really depends on what your business needs. It depends on how much money you have to spend on one, and the future growth. You could get a inexpensive computer, say for example an i3 with maybe 4 gigs of RAM, if they even sell those anymore. And it might be okay for a little while, but pretty soon you're going to have to replace that with another computer. So sometimes cheap is not always cheap. Sometimes you spend a little bit of money, but you're going to end up spending more money later to replace it. Matching the right computer and the right software to your business. The first step would be to, obviously understand what your business requirements are, and then you're going to need to research and find a computer that is appropriate for that. So I could talk about real life examples, how a small business could benefit from using computers and software. It really depends on what your business requirement is, what I just said in the previous slide. It might be something as simple as just having a word processor and spreadsheets. Or you might have a database to store all your products in. Or you may want to use some kind of automation where you're using a programming language like Python that can automate all of these redundant tasks, things that you would normally do every single day that's taking up your time. Most of that can be automated in some way and give you time back in your day. So in conclusion to this, I want to recap. Key points is understanding the hardware, understanding the different types of software and what some of the terminology is, understanding your business role, what your business requirements are for a computer, and then understanding a little bit about security. Now, I want to reiterate that there is going to be a follow-up video to this that will dig into those items I covered, like copy and paste, the very basic things that you may not know how to do that can really save you a lot of time and help you be more efficient with your computer. So again, I'm not selling anything, but I'm saying that if you go to extrahelpus.blogspot.com and you sign up for my blog so that you will be able to get updates in terms of information. Again, I'm not selling anything, but it's just a way for me to communicate with you. There will be more things out there, more videos explaining. I will have some live demonstrations where you can join. If you're not signed up for the blog, I have no way of letting you know that that you can sign up for a free demonstration of something. So keep in contact with me. Feel free to email me, steve.davis@extrahelp.us as well. But the blog is where we can really communicate directly, because if I get 100,000 emails, I can't effectively answer every single one of those, in a quick time frame. But if you have signed up for my blog, I can click one key and send it out to everyone that has signed up. So with that said, I'm going to go to the next section. But before I do that, there's, like I said earlier, there's going to be not only this introduction to computers for entrepreneurs, there's going to be videos on cybersecurity, office applications, online presence like websites, LinkedIn, things like that, marketing, things of that nature. So there's a lot more to come. This is not the only video. So I look for your feedback, and I thank you for attending and participating. Now with that, I'm going to show you how to upgrade the memory, the random access memory, and a hard drive in a Dell computer. So I have this laptop that I'm going to upgrade. It's a Dell Inspiron, and I will first start out by looking at system. If I type system in the search and go to system information, you can see that this is a Dell i5. It's an Inspiron 15 3511. It has 16 gigs of memory. Here somewhere. Yeah, excuse me, it has 8 gigs of memory. I'm going to upgrade it to 16 gigs of memory. And the available physical memory of the hard drive is less than that. So I'm also going to upgrade the hard drive in it as well. So I will be replacing with these components here. So if I now shut down, make sure it's shut down before I start working on it. I'm going to close the laptop. And I want to point out to folks, even people that's been using a computer for a while, they have a tendency to grab the edge and open it, close it with the edge. That puts excess pressure on the hinges, and it can cause these hinges to break. I know that because I've done that myself. So you really need to open and close from the middle. So I will close it, and then I will turn it over. And with it turned over, there are 3 screws on the front and 3 screws on the back, as well as 2 screws, one on either side. So through the magic of video editing, I'm going to pause the video while I remove the screws. Okay, so I've removed the screws, and what I'm going to do is use a credit card or any kind of piece of plastic to kind of wedge in here and open this. So you don't want to force it too much, because this is just thin plastic. It will break if you put too much pressure on it. So I am now going to remove it and set it aside, and I'll point out a couple of things. Here's the 8 gigs of memory that I have. There's 2 slots here. This is the hard drive that I'll be replacing. It's a NVE type hard drive, and the battery is here, and there's a couple of other components. This is the motherboard here in the back, with USB ports on the side. It also has a SD, micro SD type card slot on the side over here as well. This, the fan, which is dirty, cleaned, but we won't go into that right now. What I am going to do though is replace the memory. There's 2 clips, one on either side here. You can see it here as well. And all I'm going to do is take my fingers and just kind of push that aside, and this will pop up out of the way. Now when you replace memory, you want to make sure that it's the same memory type. So whatever memory's in there, you know, if it's just one and you want to upgrade it and put another, make sure you use the same memory type, and there's a label that will explain that on the front. So I'm going to just set this aside, and when you're handling these components like memory, you want to avoid touching these edges here along this side here. You don't want to handle that, especially if you have a house that has carpet in it. It's going to build up static electricity, and it's not going to bode well. In that case, I strongly suggest you use a wrist strap. So you'll notice that this has a slot in the middle. So if you tried to put this in backwards, it's not going to fit because the slot doesn't line up. So don't try to force anything if it doesn't fit. And it says DDR4 only, so that's a type of memory. So if you had the newer memory like DDR5, it would not work in this particular laptop. So I'm just going to lay this in here and make sure that it's seated, and just push it down and let it snap in place. I'm going to do the same thing with this other piece of memory. And again, if I try to put that in wrong, it's not going to fit. So you have to make sure that it lines up and just push it in place. Now we've upgraded the memory from 8 gigs to 16 gigs. And the next thing I'm going to do is replace this hard drive. This is a smaller hard drive. It's an NVE type hard drive, and there's just a little screw in here. And if I wanted to, I could put a terabyte of memory in here as well. But I'm just going to pull this out of the way, and there is the little hard drive. And so I'm going to take the other one, which is taped in place on here. So let me just pull that piece of tape off. And I'm going, same thing, you don't want to touch those edges, you know, kind of keep those, and you'll notice too, it also has a little slot. So you can't put it in backwards or upside down. It simply will not work. I'm going to take this one out and take the new one, and if I look at the slot here, I can see that there's a slot right there. So if I try to put it in like that, you know, like this, it's not going to work because it will not line up. So I need to line it up with the slot. I simply push this into place. Now, I have had situations where I replaced the NVE drive, and it came up and said it couldn't find the hard drive. So if that happens, shut everything back down, open it back up, and just make sure that it's seated in there very well. So here I'm going to again take this, kind of push it down, line up these little clips with the brackets here. And once I put that in place, I'm going to make sure that it seats here well. And then I will take the little tiny screw that holds it in place. Okay, now I have replaced the hard drive. It's that simple. And again, through the magic of video editing, I'm going to pause the video while I put the cover back on and boot this back up. So now that I've replaced the screws, I will flip this over. Again, I want to emphasize, don't open it from the corners. Open it from the middle. Otherwise you're going to break the hinges. So once I have it turned on, I'll power on. Got a light there, and while that's happening, let me just put this away. So when you're booting up after you work on it inside, it's normal for it to take a little bit longer because the computer's trying to recognize it. It gave me an error message here saying the amount of system memory has changed. Yes, of course it did. We changed it from 8 gigs to 16 gigs. So all I'm going to do is hit OK, or continue rather. So it will accept the new memory when I do that. That's also at the place, if it didn't recognize the hard drive, it would give you an error message saying that it couldn't boot the computer. At that point you would need to shut it down, remove the cover again, and then reseat that to make sure that NVE drive is properly seated in there. So just bear with me for a moment while this boots up, and I will show you that it now has the new drive. So we'll just get connected here. Okay, so now that the computer is started, now that the computer has restarted, I'm going to type about here instead of system this time, and show you a different way to look at it. So it will come up to the system about, and you can see clearly now, instead of 8 gigs of installed RAM, random access memory, it now has 16 gigs. It also has the larger hard drive installed as well. So that's it. We've upgraded the computer. We doubled the amount of RAM, random access memory. Again, memory is different than hard drive space. People, newbies especially, get that confused. And so that concludes the upgrade process here. We will have other videos later that do other things as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video.